All right. Hi, friends. Welcome back to our next episode of Video Health's Mic Drop. Today, I'm really excited because we are joined by two absolute powerhouses. You're at Little Rock Family Dental. This is a 4-location DSO, which is actually under the larger umbrella of Apex Dental Collective. So these two female leaders have been really incredibly intentional and authentic in how they approached implementing AI. So we have Lauren. She's the Chief Operating Officer. This is the one that steers the ship, right? You're aligning your clinical and your operational standards, really pushing for tools that make life easier for you and your teams. We also have Hannah, the right-hand woman. She wears many hats. Formal title is executive assistant. So we know that you are doing a lot, to help with implementation, training, systems, ops, all of those things. So I'm sure both of you see firsthand how technology should land, right, in your teams, in your organization. And it's really awesome to see you both advocating for technology that really helps your clinicians and helps things stick at the practice level. So with that, Hannah, Lauren, thank you so much for being here and joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely. Awesome. All right, so let's start off with just the journey that you both have experienced, right? You have tried and tested several AI platforms. I want to kind of take it back to just, the history of why you decided to try it out, the challenges and things like that. But before we dive into that, let's start with just a round of introductions so our listeners know who you are. Lauren, let's start with you. Tell us about, Little Rock in general, who you serve, your patient base, your size, and then just about your role, what you do.
absolutely. So my role is Chief Operations Officer, which is a lot of everything. Everything goes into the company when we're talking about operations, from the AI to just day-to-day functionality. So I've been in the industry for 20 years. I started working for Little Rock Office Family Dental Care in 2010. And since we had started developing the company, we have grown triple in size. We were one office, one location, and have grown to 4. There were 3 doctors and 5 hygienists when I started here, and now we have 15 doctors and 13 hygienists. So it's come an incredibly long way. And, just the push to get to AI was kind of a no-brainer for us, just having so many people and having those resources at our fingertips.
I love that. Yeah, a lot of growth, a lot of growth quickly, right? So you have to start implementing tools and technologies like AI. There is not enough room for adding, staff. We're dealing with real staff issues, right? You can't solve a problem by putting more patients in the chair. So how can you help with calibration and consistency amongst your clinicians? How can you help support conversations with your patients without adding, additional complexity? And so it's a no-brainer. I love that you said that. It's great that you kind of were leaning in that direction. Hannah, I want you to do the same. Tell us about your role and sort of where your mind was when you guys were starting to consider implementing AI.
Yeah. I am the executive assistant and started out probably like 3 years ago, I think, just as Dr. Mackin's personal assistant, and the role has just kind of grown into what it now is. So I just kind of help manage the office with Lauren and just do anything that Dr. Mackin asks of me. And yeah, I mean, it's just literally anything and everything is part of my role. And I think another thing, Dr. Mackin is very technology focused, and he wants to be on the cutting edge of new technologies that come out. And that's something that's always been important to him. And so whenever he first found a company that did AI, he was all about it, wanted to implement it immediately, because he spends time at home looking at x-rays whenever he's not at the office. And so he's always wanting to make sure that we're doing the best for our patients and serving them the best we can. And to have AI is like a second opinion to help catch things for them and just make their job a little bit easier day to day. It has been great for our practice.
That's amazing. I love to hear this. And it makes it a lot easier when you have sort of your leader forward thinking and receptive to these types of technologies. Because you're absolutely right. We shouldn't be doing dentistry at home. if
Yeah.
we can save time and we can be more efficient and we can, really be able to focus on what matters, that patient care delivery, and then go home and enjoy our families, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And I'm sure that's what VideaAI, is intended to do, is to really help strengthen and support their ability to do their job well, to do it efficiently, and to make sure that they're able to enjoy a healthy balance there. So I love that Dr. McCon is very forward thinking and savvy in that way, because it's not just him as a provider, right? You have 4 locations, you have multiple providers. And as you mentioned, Lauren, there are challenges with just consistency across the board. Do you have any newer grads or maybe less tenured providers amongst the doctors and hygienists today?
Absolutely. And then even, some of our old school doctors as well, they may not, they didn't like the AI at first, and they're all starting to kind of come around,
Sure.
It's newbies and even some old school little
Yeah.
seasoned people. So.
Yeah, there's something for everybody. And that's not a unique challenge. We've heard this before where, you have your 10-year doctors, I'm good at diagnosing. I've been practicing dentistry for 10, 20, 30 years. I feel really confident in what I'm doing. The reality is again, never meant to replace or diagnose. We're meant, VideaAI is intended to help support. And if we can draw attention to something quicker, that helps them work better, right? It helps support their job. And that's, at the end of the day, what we're trying to achieve. So I want to kind of understand, it sounds like, consistency and calibration was a really big, indicator into why you were looking into implementing AI. Were there other workflow issues or other challenges that your clinicians brought to you that, you wanted to evaluate?
I'll speak on this one. So Dr. Mackin, like Hannah was mentioning, he would go through the x-rays, and this was even prior to the AI. And, he would sometimes even question, it's like, was that new doctor's diagnosis something that I might have diagnosed? Do I agree with this? Are we overdiagnosing? Are we underdiagnosing? Are we watching things turn from a filling into a crown? Are we filling things that are maybe etches? So he wanted to have something to kind of validate the doctor's diagnosis, but as well to educate the doctors and provide more to them why he doesn't feel like this is, correct, or why that was a great treatment plan. Like, great job. You got all the diagnosis
Exactly.
we needed.
Yeah. It's really helpful as a mentorship support. It's not to point fingers or to say, I'm better at diagnosing than you. It's really to have transparency and understand why. And that's the nice thing about incorporating the AI, for example. There are certain abilities for different clinicians to adjust thresholds, and the sensitivity of the AI. Maybe they're more conservative and maybe some are more proactive, and having the ability to set, what works for that provider is really great for all of the entire organization to have better understanding into what they're recommending and why. I also really like that he's looking into that, because sometimes when leadership doesn't take that accountability to take opportunities to have these conversations, there is no room for growth or evolution, right? And most doctors, especially the new grads, they want to advocate for themselves and they want to learn and they want to grow. And so they're receptive, especially as you have this sort of, like you said, unbiased addition, right? It's not just doctor saying something, it's also, the AI validating and supporting. So that's great. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's go back to just sort of that validation period, right? You've tried some other platforms before. You had kind of experienced some things and some hiccups. What were some of the things that stood out immediately once you implemented, VideaAI? You had mentioned things like load times, some other challenges. Let's talk about the differences there. And Hannah, let's go with you on this one.
Okay. Yeah. Our previous AI provider, we loved it. Like our team was very much on board with it, but the load time sometimes took 30, 45 minutes. And we personally don't build in new patients until they arrive, just because, sometimes they don't show up, and we're a big practice. We can't build charts for every single patient. And so that's kind of our standard of practice. And they wouldn't sync the x-rays until the patient had been built in. So sometimes they didn't show up till the patient had already left. So it was a huge disservice. They couldn't pull the x-rays up. And usually those new patients are coming in for their comp exams and their full mouth x-rays. So we're wanting to catch everything, treatment plan it before they come back. And so it just workflow wise was a huge like disruption and really prevented them from being able to have that support on x-rays and to do how Dr. Mackin prefers for them to look at x-rays. They want it pulled up in the room as soon as the doctor comes in. And so that was a really hard thing. We tried to get the support team to work on it, but it's just nothing they could.
It defeats the purpose. So what I'm hearing from you is there were really delayed load times for you. So when you're having that comprehensive exam, especially with a new patient, you want to give that patient a great experience, which is we implement technology to support you, to identify things for you and to be, accurate in our diagnosis. And if you don't have access to that at the time of that conversation, at the time that the doctor's in the room, it's pretty much worthless. You're not able to leverage the technology. Okay, so that's a huge workflow challenge, a very clunky workflow disruption. It really defeats, what the AI is intended to do, which is to be sort of that support at the care delivery moments, right, as you're communicating with the patient. That's a big one. So I'm glad it didn't deter you from AI in general, right? For me, I might have been like, if this is AI, I'm not even going to incorporate that. There's no way I can wait 30, 40 minutes for that. So, okay, thanks for sharing this. Did you notice a difference as you implemented Videa right away? Lauren, let me ask you, did you see that was a big difference? The load times weren't that long?
Absolutely. And, full transparency, there was just some little quirks about video when we first, onboarded, even with the new patients. So if the patient had been existing already on our schedule, it would populate at least within 24 to 48 hours prior to us looking at the actual images.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for a brand new patient who maybe walked in today, right? We did find that they were there. They showed up for the new patients, but we just had to go search them a little bit differently. So it was that nuance of just
learning curve. Yeah, the initial learning curve. Yeah. And you had shared, now that we're talking about this, Laura, you had shared some other, challenges and hiccups just in sort of the technical phase, right? And then also even like scheduling and communication. So we recognize that there's going to be that learning curve, and there's going to be some challenges along the way as you're moving from validation into, full-on rollout or full-on adoption. With that, what advice would you give to others who may be in sort of like that moment where we're considering a validation and we're a little bit scared to get our feet wet, right? So you've experienced these things, you've worked with Videa Health, and hopefully we've proven ourselves to be good partners where we recognize these things and we work to mitigate quickly. What advice would you give others who may be fearful for these reasons?
Yeah, be transparent with the Videa team. Let them know when you have an issue. You guys have been awesome at addressing things immediately. We noticed that we had some historical data that wasn't loading on the front end, and we got that corrected. It took a lot of back and forth, but I gave them samples. It was very easy to work forward and move through it, but that transparency was needed in order to get it addressed. We didn't just give up the minute we saw an issue.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, thank you for that. And I agree. It really takes a level of partnership. I think that's what we hold strong to. You have questions, concerns, issues, positive feedback, we'll take it all. We will really internalize it and we will move forward together to make sure we get it to a point where you have a solid workflow and you're happy in the consistency and quality of the product. I want to talk about how VideaAI has really helped your teams communicate together. Do you see a difference in the way they're communicating besides what you mentioned with Dr. Mackin and mentorship of the doctors? What about how they're communicating with each other and with patients as well, right? So the AI could be sort of a visual guide, an educational component. I'm assuming you're incorporating it into your treatment discussions. How has that evolved now that you have it? Hannah, maybe let me ask you this directly.
Yeah, our team knows to have it pulled up for every patient, and they pull it up on TVs that are in each op. And so they will show the patients what they're seeing and explain it to them. And one of my favorite things about Videa is that there's a whole patient treatment thing that you can send to them. And so that has been amazing. Our team's really excited about that. You can also like compare previous x-rays that we've taken to the current ones that we took, and that's been really helpful and beneficial to show the patient like the progression of treatment. And so our team is really enjoying that part of it. And then our treatment coordinators have been trained on the patient education part of it, and so they're going over that with them whenever they're going over the treatment plan, and they're either printing it or sending it to the patient so that whenever they leave they can review that, because sometimes you hear like, oh, you need treatment, and your brain just shuts off and you're just they don't remember what we talked to them about. And so I love that it breaks down in like layman's terms what treatment is, what's going to happen, and so that they can look back on that and they know exactly what to expect when they come back in for their next visit.
That's amazing. Lauren, have you seen sort of a shift in the patient perspective and perception of, the AI as they're having these conversations and incorporating it? Do you see sort of that the patients are receiving it well? Because we've kind of gone through a shift where sometimes, we were even hesitant to incorporate this into our practices, and patients were like, what is this? I don't know what this is. But now that, the general public is using AI in so many other ways, it's actually kind of been seen as, this is a technology I want to see in my dental practice. I expect this. We hear more of that. So tell me, how has that patient experience evolved?
I definitely think it does help with patient acceptance, right? And kind of like Hannah was saying, the minute a person hears treatment, they kind of blank out. And we always laugh in our big office. We have an elevator door, and we swear that when the door closes, it's like the little clicker in Men in Black, and they just forget everything that just happened in there.
Yep.
I think it kind of gets the patient more involved. It helps them kind of know really like, okay, I see it. I see the color on the screen. It's not just black and white images. Like I feel like it helps the patient feel like they're almost the dentist too. Like when you Google your own like medical ailment, I feel like to some extent they're like, okay, yes, I knew that tooth hurt for a reason, and I see it right there on the screen.
Yeah.
So I do truly believe that just the education tool for it has really helped our patient case rate acceptance. It's helped our team actually be able to explain it maybe even better than we could without the documents. It does have wonderful graphs and details where, before we might Google what a bridge looks like. And in this case, it tells the patient, hey, if we remove this tooth, this is what a bridge would look like in that area. So I honestly think it has helped increase our, acceptance rate for cases since we started using it. So.
I love to hear that. Yeah, that's so exciting, because that's absolutely the way it was designed, is to really mitigate some of the questioning and the fear factor. When you can educate, people will receive that well. When they understand what you're recommending and why, they will take, that accountability. They want to advocate for their own health. And so incorporating, the educational component, that just takes the time away from you having to explain it, and to generate, this stuff in a way that they just can't understand visually. Yes, like you can send sort of an overview of that treatment. They have a general understanding, not in dental speak. They don't understand that, right? But they can see pictures and they can understand what you're recommending. So I love to hear that. We have just a couple minutes left. So I want to just ask both of you, looking ahead, what excites you most about the future of AI in your practices? It has been rolled out to a majority of the Apex Dental Collective organization in the GP realm. Is there something that you want to see the AI do or evolve to really help strengthen operationally what you're trying to achieve, and just some of your other, clinical goals and objectives? I'm going to shoot this to you, Lauren.
Okay. I personally, what I would like to see or love to see is consistency across the board, right? Insurance companies, and I hate that insurance runs the world in dental, but it truly does. We would like to not let insurance dictate how we treat a patient by any means, but we also know to get a claim filed and processed correctly, we have to have all of the information. I do know that VideaAI has some really neat things coming down the pipeline, so I won't ruin it for maybe a future show, but it's really neat what can happen or what could happen, and just letting us know what imaging we need, what, documentation specifically it might request. Even if we've already got it, just having that guideline, another checkbox to be like, okay, yeah, I got everything that this patient needs to take care of them to the best of their ability, utilize all the benefits that they have available, and treat them well enough that they want to keep coming back and refer everyone that they know to us.
I love it.
I think one of the most exciting things to me is just how streamlined AI can make things, and it can bring in so much more efficiency, which ultimately saves everybody so much time, and time is money, and so I think it adds so much to our team to be able to give them support and tools that make their job a little bit easier, that take some of the tedious day-to-day tasks that can really bog them down. Like if we can have things start to roll out, and I think it'll start to happen with insurance claims, with insurance verifying, and just day-to-day, like things that it can make easier in our lives is going to make such a big difference in these practices, because why wouldn't you do that? It saves you time, and then you actually focus on the things that are important.
Yeah, exactly. It goes beyond just the clinical aspect and the diagnostic aspect. There are many different facets to dentistry and in that, that patient journey. And so I agree with you there. AI should, be involved in really streamlining all areas. And, we've seen this success with the clinical AI and just really helping, supporting, and reinforcing the clinicians. We are evolving the product to talk more about how we can better operationalize, the things that we do every day. How can we automate things like, note taking? How can we streamline revenue cycle management and the challenges involved there? So I agree with you. It doesn't stop at the clinical component. It will continue to really help, support all other areas. Yeah. Ladies, thank you so much. We're at time. I had such a pleasure speaking with you and just learning about what you're both doing. How can our listeners learn more about Little Rock and Apex Dental Collective? Where do we find you? Where are you guys located? Just so that we can do our research and make sure we're keeping up. Lauren, are you guys on LinkedIn? Are you Facebook? Where's your website?
Facebook, we have Instagram. We have a very nice website as well you can go check out. We definitely, we try to get out there. Hannah actually does a lot of our social media. We try to get fun videos. Definitely check us out on Instagram. There's some really great, fun things that our team has done. And even though we are a corporate office, right? We're a big family here. We're all a bunch of goofballs. So go check us out, take a look, and watch some of our videos. Give us a like every so often if you feel the need. So if we make you laugh.
Love it. Well, you two are a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And to everybody tuning in, thank you for being here. We will catch you on the next episode of VideaHealth's Mic Drop. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Jenny. Hopefully we'll get to see you all again soon.
Bye.